Perhaps this is the strangest, most incomprehensible, and mysterious island on Earth. Lonely amidst the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, this island always sparks the imagination of anyone. With its monumental, majestic statues that have stood there for centuries, they're like eternal guardians of a mysterious past. When the first European explorers set foot on the island, they discovered hundreds of giant stone statues. Some statues are as tall as a 10-story building and weigh nearly 100. This is Easter Island, one of humanity's greatest mysteries still waiting to be decoded. In this video, we will explore the most mysterious aspects of the island. And finally, we will reveal an interesting secret that, for some reason, almost no one tells you. What is hidden beneath this island? Where did the giant statues weighing hundreds of tons on the island come from? Who created them? Don't take your eyes off the screen and join us in exploring. "3,500 kilometers off the coast of Chile, this is the country the island belongs to. It is a 4-hour flight on a modern passenger plane. On the other side, the nearest mainland is the Pitcairn Islands, 1,931 kilometers away. To the north and south, there is nothing but the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. This is precisely the location of Easter Island. On Easter Sunday in 1722, while drifting in the Pacific Ocean, the fleet of Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen discovered an island that was barren and impoverished, 3,500 kilometers off the coast of Chile. In his diary, he described the island as covered in sand and looking very barren. At the time, Jacob Roggeveen did not know he had just found the world's most remote and strange island. Upon landing on the island, Jacob Roggeveen found it very flat, with only grass and some sparse shrubs. Here, he encountered indigenous people still living in the Stone Age. About 3,000 people were struggling to survive on the island. What astonished him was the many giant monolithic statues scattered everywhere. The indigenous people called them Moai. The Moai statues range from 4 to 20 meters in height and weigh from tens to hundreds of tons. There are nearly 1,000 such Moai statues across the island. Most Moai were carved from an extinct volcano crater on the eastern side of the island. In the volcano crater, traces of hundreds of statues being carved or completed but not yet moved remain. Among them, there is an unfinished statue as tall as a 5-story building and weighing up to 210 tons. From this volcano crater, the super-sized, super-heavy statues were transported across the island and placed on even more massive stone platforms called ahu. These stone platforms are assembled from rocks weighing tens of tons. The smallest platform is made from 300 tons of stone, while the largest, named Ahu Tongariki, weighs up to 9,000 tons. In 1994, Professor Claudio Cristino used a 55-ton crane to re-erect 15 statues on Ahu Tongariki. Despite having many support devices, he still faced difficulties because the largest statue on the island, Hauro, weighs up to 88 tons. Is it true that the indigenous people on the island created these statues? Captain James Cook's report upon arriving on the island in 1774 described the people here as small, thin, timid, and pitiful. They had small plots of land to grow sweet potatoes, taro, bananas, and sugarcane. Their only livestock were chickens. Fresh water on the island was also scarce, and the people had to work hard to get enough water to use. The island had only sparse shrubs, with the largest tree less than 3 meters tall and very soft wood. The nearest inhabited place is over 2,000 kilometers away by sea. On an island with no cranes, no hauling vehicles, no metal, no wood, and no draft animals. With only a small group of people, who built these wonders? That question leaves researchers puzzled. The scientific community is divided into one side believes that only supernatural forces, such as aliens, could have accomplished this. The other faction believes that it was the indigenous people who erected these wonders. If it were the indigenous people, how did they move the stone statues? One hypothesis suggests that the Moai statues were designed to move forward through a rocking motion using only human labor and ropes. This means ancient people used ropes wrapped around the statues, always maintaining balance to prevent them from falling. Then, they made them walk by alternately tilting the statue from side to side to create space in front. With this method, the statues could slowly walk around the island without the need for machinery or carts. In 2012, Lee Poe and Terry Hunt, a researcher from the University of Arizona, also demonstrated that it was possible to transport a 3-meter-tall, 5-ton Moai statue several hundred meters with just 18 people and 3 large ropes, utilizing a rocking back-and-forth motion. Another hypothesis suggests they placed these Moai statues on round logs, using the rolling motion of the logs to move them. However, all these methods were too labor-intensive, while the movement speed was very slow, making them unsuitable for the largest statues and potentially causing them to break. People can think of many methods, but regardless of the method, they realized the mandatory condition was having wood. Meanwhile, Easter Island was covered only in shrubs. In 1983, botanist John Friendly made a crucial discovery. In a cave on the island, his friend found fossilized plant seeds. After analysis, he identified them as seeds of a giant palm species. A clue had emerged, and the way to find more fossils was to search beneath Mount Taravaka. Archaeologists found fossilized palm trunks with diameters up to 2.1 meters, larger than any existing palm species in the world. Riley investigated by excavating ancient trash piles left by the island. The deeper she dug, the more charcoal from woody plants she found. Among them were many tree species that could grow up to 30 meters tall. Their wood was excellent for building houses of boats. Evidence shows that Easter Island was once a dense forest in the middle of the ocean. Thus, with an island full of wood, how did the indigenous people move the statues? In 1998, archaeologist Joanne Van Tilburg proposed a method using wood as sled runners to move a 13-ton concrete replica. With 70 workers, she was able to move the statue 15 kilometers in 1 week. According to her calculations, using 500 workers, it would be entirely possible to move and erect the statue named Paro, weighing 88 tons. So the perplexing puzzle seems solved, but that was also when archaeologists discovered they had touched upon a dark chapter in the island's history. Through dating methods, scientists found that the era of the giant Moai abruptly ended around 1620. From then on, the islanders began making small wooden Moai, depicting figures with sunken white eyes, bleeding faces, exposed teeth, protruding ribs, and emaciated bodies. These were the Moai Katakana, Manny and Gina. Perhaps nowhere else are cannibalistic figures as prevalent as in the folk culture of Easter Island. The follow-up question is, why did the indigenous people stop erecting giant stone statues praising nobility and start making wooden statues of Manny and Gina? The answer might be found in scientific calculations. Professor Joanne Van Tilburg's husband is an engineer specializing in cranes and elevators. After careful calculation, he realized the island's people would have needed 300 years of intense labor to create these structures. Each project required dozens of skilled craftsmen and hundreds of laborers for transport, working continuously for months or years. The islanders would have had to ensure food supplies to feed and pay these hard-working laborers, compensation for workers injured in accidents, and grand feasts to celebrate the completion of new statues. More food meant more hunting and more deforestation for farmland. Not to mention that erecting statues required a lot of wood for tools and fuel. As demand for statues increased, people had to clear more forests, hunt more meat, putting immense pressure on the island's resources. So why expend so much effort and food on these statues? What was the purpose of creating them? According to the indigenous people, the statues represented the economic potential of the tribe and the power of the nobility. Instead of war, tribes competed through monuments. That is why the statues became larger and more elaborate over time. When the final statues were erected, the island's resources had reached their limit. The ancient trash piles once again tell us tragic stories. In the deepest soil layers, bones of dolphins, seals, dozens of extinct bird species, ocean fish, large snails, giant lizards, sea turtles, and charcoal from giant trees were found. Certainly, the inhabitants of Easter Island once lived a prosperous and happy life, like in paradise. Closer to the surface, traces of bones for large, meaty animals gradually disappear. Instead, there are scant bones of smaller species such as black snails, chickens, rats, and coastal fish. The canopies of large trees also gradually thinned, giving way to shrubs and grasses. What does this change reflect? It can be affirmed that large trees had disappeared, leaving only grasslands. There was no more wood to transport statues, build fishing boats, or repair houses. There were no more meat-rich animals, the land became barren, agricultural productivity declined, and groundwater dwindled. Meanwhile, the island's population grew increasingly dense. Famine occurred inevitably, and the natives began turning to an available but previously overlooked food source. That was human flesh. In soil layers near the surface, archaeologists found human bones with clear marks of sawing, chopping, and cooking to extract marrow. The decline had turned into a war over water sources and fresh meat. In the north of the island, there is a cave called Anakai Tongata, meaning the cannibal cave. This was a wartime refuge for one tribe. Whenever victorious, this tribe would bring prisoners here to eat them as revenge. The horror of hunting humans for food during famines became deeply ingrained in the island's culture, reflected in folk tales and art forms such as the Kawa statues. The island was swept into a spiral of violence. Many folk stories describe the toppling of rival tribes' monuments. It ultimately ended with a major rebellion when the impoverished rose up and overthrew all the stone statues of the nobility. The era of the giant stone statues officially ended. That is why when Jacob Rajavim set foot on Easter Island, the island was a barren land with pitifully small people, surviving on scarce rainfall, barren fields, and stone chicken coops. But that was not the worst. The European explorers were also invaders and slave traders. They introduced the island's natives to the taste of gunpowder and infectious diseases. Thousands were captured as slaves, and thousands more died from smallpox. By 1872, only 111 indigenous people remained on the island. Most of those who understood the natives' culture had died. By 1888, Chile had annexed the island, suppressing all uprisings. The natives were subjected to severe racial discrimination. It was not until 1966 that they gained Chilean citizenship. Of course, the above analyses are merely hypotheses by scientists. But what if scientists sided with the view that some supernatural force had influenced the island? First, let's answer the question: how did the island's first inhabitants arrive here? How did they create such a mysterious civilization? Were the ancestors of the island's inhabitants connected to an advanced civilization? Generations of scientists, historians, and anthropologists have been puzzled by that question for decades. And here are some notable hypotheses about the origins of the island's first inhabitants. Among the nearly 900 stone statues found on Easter Island, scientists discovered that a group of Moai statues have faces quite similar to those carved on rock walls in northern Peru. The statues in Peru are believed to have been created by people of the Chachapoya culture. The Chachapoya, also known as the Cloud People, were a tribe living in the Andes Mountains within the cloud forests of the Amazon region, now part of Peru. Later, the Inca conquered this civilization before the Spanish arrived in Peru. Another interesting point is that the technique of constructing the stone statues on Easter Island is very similar to the method of building stone walls at the famous archaeological site Sacsayhuaman in Peru. Here, multi-ton stones in the walls are arranged, interlocked, and cleverly and tightly fitted together to such an extent that it is suspected the builders knew how to soften the stone during construction. On Easter Island, the two walls at Ahu Vanapu and Ahu Tahira also consist of multi-ton stones of various shapes, stacked in the style of Sacsayhuaman. However, the level of sophistication and precision in the stone wall construction on Easter Island is slightly inferior to that in Peru. Additionally, at Sacsayhuaman, some wall corners are shaped into very aesthetic curves, soft and tight. Similarly, Easter Island also has very beautiful curved stone wall corners. In 1864, Eugene Arrow, a missionary of the Roman Catholic Church, came to Easter Island to preach. During his time on the island, he discovered 26 wooden tablets, carved with a strange hieroglyphic script known as Rongorongo. The name Rongorongo originates from the Rapa Nui language. Rapa Nui is considered the indigenous language of this island. Rongorongo script was found on the staff of an Easter Island chief, a bird-head statue, and 2 narrow tablets. Crescent-shaped ornaments once worn by the people of Easter Island. When speaking about the discovery of Rongorongo on Easter Island, missionary Arrow wrote, "In every hut, tablets or wooden sticks carved with hieroglyphic characters were found. These are drawings depicting animals never seen on the island, carved with a sharp stone tool. Each figure has its own name, but their lack of interest in these tablets led me to think that these characters are remnants of an ancient form of writing. Now, they keep them out of habit without understanding their meaning." According to Arrow, it seems that Rongorongo did not originate on Easter Island, but was transmitted to the island from ancient times. So, where else has this script been found? The famous Norwegian anthropologist Thor Heyerdahl led the first archaeological expedition to Easter Island in 1955-1956. Heyerdahl discovered that the only other place where Rongorongo has been found is the area where the first Indians lived around Lake Titicaca in the Andes of South America, spanning Peru and Bolivia. So how could the language of the Andean people, nearly 4,000 kilometers away from Easter Island, appear here? Another detail is that the people of the Lake Titicaca region in Peru and Bolivia often grow totora reeds as weaving material, and to build boats that navigate Lake Titicaca. Strangely, totora reeds were also found by Heyerdahl in the areas around the lakes and volcanic craters on Easter Island. Earlier, in the 19th century, many explorers reported that fishermen on Easter Island also used totora reeds to build small boats called pura, to prove that South American inhabitants traveled westward on rafts made from totora reeds from the continent to Easter Island. Heyerdahl undertook an incredible journey himself on a balsa wood raft that same year with his companions. He wrote a fascinating book about the Kon-Tiki raft's voyage. In it, Thor convincingly proved his theory. Later, he also lived for nearly a year on Easter Island and wrote an equally marvelous book called Aku Aku. This book quickly attracted attention and became a worldwide bestseller. He gathered much evidence to support his theory. Thor demonstrated that the island's plants originated from South America, along with the similarity of the statues to pre-Columbian sculptures from American civilizations and many other points. Many discovered a strange circle running around the Earth, passing through Easter Island and famous ancient cultural sites, like the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, the Angkor Wat Temple Complex in Cambodia, the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan, the lost city of Petra in Jordan, and the Nazca Plateau in Peru. To this day, no one has explained the meaning of this circle. However, the common point is that the monuments on the circle are all massive structures, some showing construction skills far beyond modern human understanding. So, why did the inhabitants of this isolated island with a population of only about 2,000, nearly 4,000 kilometers from the mainland, decide to build such statues? Why have archaeologists not found evidence of tools or equipment used to carve and move the statues? The connections in stone statue facial shapes, stone wall construction techniques, the origin of the Rongorongo language, the presence of totora plants between Easter Island and Peru suggest a deep cultural and historical link between the two places. Could these two areas share a common cultural origin and construction technology level? We also know that the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt The Angkor Wat complex and the drawings on the Nazca Plateau in Peru are works of prehistoric culture, existing before our 5,000-year civilization. So, could the stone statues on Easter Island, which also lie on a circle around the Earth with the aforementioned ancient monuments, have been built by a high-tech prehistoric civilization later destroyed for some reason? Moreover, stone monuments with exquisite construction techniques and high precision, very similar to Easter Island's stone statues, have also been identified as prehistoric culture. So, could the stone structures on this island also have been created by prehistoric inhabitants who once existed on Earth? The answer will be revealed later. After all the efforts of archaeologists like Heyerdahl in the past, his theory has been completely rejected by modern science. Because until now, most people believe that it was people from the West who came to Easter Island and created the civilization there. They're Polynesians. Perhaps this hypothesis is more convincing and less contradictory. Polynesia is a subregion of Oceania, comprising over 1,000 islands in the Central and South Pacific. Polynesian people share similarities in culture, language, and origin. The term Polynesia was first used by French writer Charles de Brosses in 1756, and originally referred to all the islands in the Pacific. We all know that Polynesians are great navigators. They even developed their own navigation system from scratch, which they had used for thousands of years, to ensure long journeys spanning thousands of kilometers across the vast Pacific Ocean. The Polynesians had contact with most of the islands in the vast Polynesian Triangle, using altitter, an ancient type of boat. And with their capabilities, reaching Easter Island was a given. The inhabitants of Easter Island recount that their great ancestor was Hotu Matua, who arrived on large boats with his family, friends, animals, and seeds for future cultivation. He came from the west of the island. When the island's population grew to thousands of people, the residents carved complete statues, known as Moai, to represent their ancestors. There are still about 1,000 such statues remaining. The largest statue stands up at 21 meters tall. The enormous size and large number of statues indicate that Easter Island once had a developed society. But there is a problem here. The estimated population on the island at its peak was over 17,000 people. However, the island has no rivers, lakes, or streams, and clean water depends entirely on rainwater. The average annual rainfall is only about 1,240 millimeters, which is insufficient for survival, let alone developing a civilization and carving giant statues. In the 18th century, Europeans arrived and reported that the Rapa Nui people drank seawater directly to survive. At that time, no one believed it, but with modern science, that seems impossible, as the human body cannot process the salt content in seawater. So, how did the Rapa Nui survive? That is the mystery that scientists have only recently found clues to. Specifically, experts from New York University believe there is a groundwater system around the island. The island's soil is inherently very porous volcanic soil, so rainwater immediately seeps down without pooling. However, fortunately, this water flows out to sea with the tides. Rainwater mixing with seawater creates brackish water areas, with a salt concentration low enough for humans to drink. The Rapa Nui collected this water source for use. Water flows downhill and accumulates in areas where porous rock meets the ocean. According to research team leader, anthropologist Calippo, when the tide is low, this water flows directly into the sea, forming brackish water. Humans can take advantage of this effect to collect water for use. Calippo and his colleagues tested brackish water areas in several locations around the island, and he realized the salt concentration in the water was low enough to be safe for human health. That water is drinkable but still tastes salty. This aligns with previous assumptions about the diet of Easter Island inhabitants, which is that they consumed very little salt. This is understandable because they already absorbed enough salt from their drinking water. since fresh water was the most precious resource here. They built the giant statues nearby to protect the most valuable resource for them. What about you? What do you think about the origin of these mysterious statues and the inhabitants here? Leave your opinion in the comment section below. Don't forget to give the Ancient World channel a like and subscribe. And now, goodbye and see you in the next videos.